Hey everybody, my name is Stacy and I just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself and kind of talk about who I am and what has motivated me to do yoga and why I am so into it. So please forgive me, this is my first time making like a little bio video like this and I do feel a little bit nervous, but I'm talking to a camera so it feels a little funny. But I'll just give it a go. We'll see how it goes. Let's just get into it, as they say. All right. Well, like I said, my name is Stacy. I am currently 34 years old. I'm a Libra. I was born October 1st in 1985. I've been practicing yoga now for a bit of time. That's very vague. I always grew up moving. So I was super into gymnastics when I was very young. And I did that for, from the time that I was 8 years old to 13 years old. That got me through like elementary to middle school. And then once I went to high school, I just decided to try cheerleading. So when I got to high school, cheerleading and dance became my outlet. I did 1 year of diving. I never competed, but I did get to practice that a little bit and learn some things. But I always kind of had this issue with fear. So, like, that got in the way with me really growing in gymnastics once I got old enough to be aware of, like, I was putting myself in danger. Once I got a little older and graduated from high school, I had, like, danced in a show that we did. My interest was sparked in dancing, and I had a friend at the time, and she convinced me to audition for our spring. Actually, no, it was a fall dance show at our community college. So then I got into dance there at that level and started to take like ballet and jazz and hip hop. And just got into a little funky world of sometimes like eccentric misfit type people, like just trying to like move our bodies. And it was so beautiful, so fun. I did 2 or 3 shows there. And nothing was like professional level by any means. It was all just very much a hobby, but a hobby that really served my soul. I feel very passionate and like in my element when I get to move and when I get to perform or dance or just express through that. I learned from a young age that I was inclined to like kinesthetic movement. And when I got old enough to understand, like in community college, I did a research paper on multiple intelligences. I'll always remember learning about that and how beautiful that was to me, that everyone has some sort of strength or way that they're like inclined toward learning and may possess special ways of being intelligent. So I learned for me personally that bodily kinesthetic intelligence was something that I was inclined to. That was like one of my strongest ways of learning was through movement and touch and activity. If I can like feel it in my body or hold it or do something to be learning, then that's me at my best, like my optimal learning. So this brings me to yoga. Fast forward to maybe about 27, 28 years old. I was practicing at a gym. I had kind of gotten out of touch with cardio and like working out and feeling good in my body and eating well, and I wanted to make a change. I had just moved to go back to school to get my teaching credential. My lifestyle got away from me, so I was like, okay, I need to get in shape, and I started taking different classes. So that's where like the seed was planted, but it wasn't until maybe 3 years after that initial introduction to yoga that I got invited by a friend to like a studio class. All that to say, it was in 2016. I was going through a huge life change where it ended up really helping me. It's like the extent to which yoga can facilitate inner growth and healing is what I was met with. So in 2016, I went through a breakup, and it was my first breakup as like an adult. I ended up going down a path of like very super Christian when I was about 15 years old, and that served me, for the time. But there are aspects of my life that like really reflect how much influence Christianity had on me, even in my own inner reflection of who I am and dating. So I really hadn't dated a whole lot, and I didn't have, it's not like I had a bunch of boyfriends or long-term relationships really. So, I was in my upper 20s when I really found my first adult love. It had been taught to me that I needed to like wait for my future husband. It was about like God opening your eyes to the one someday, hopefully, like in some miraculous, beautiful, like heartwarming way. And so there's a lot of romanticism and idealism with that. And, here I was in my upper 20s beginning to really like question my faith and deconstruct it more. I finally like fell in love with somebody, and it was a person of like my choice that I was not like, it wasn't fitting this box of what the Christian doctrine had really taught me. And that was actually really good for me. That relationship ended, and it like broke me. It like was really, really sad. The whole balancing of work and personal life just got away from me. Like there was no balance. It was all work, and I was overworking myself, and to the point that there was no like self-care. I didn't really know what that was or that I needed it, but I did. And there was not a whole lot of feeding myself for my own happiness. A lot of it was coming out of codependency in this relationship. And I didn't really do a whole lot of self-growing. So one of my coworkers became a friend, and she saw me struggling and hurting, and we happened to forge a friendship at that time. And she invited me to her yoga studio, which was hot yoga. And but before that first visit, she took me on a run, which was insanely difficult to go from. Like, I wasn't a runner, so she was just trying to like get me out of the house, get my blood pumping, get the endorphins going, like I think some fresh air, like just taking my mind off things. So we went on this like mini trail run outside of Ventura where I live, and it was hot that day. I remember we were sweating by the time we got to the yoga studio. And then I didn't know, by the time we walked in, I was like, what is this insanity? It was like humid inside. It was like kind of wet and damp from probably the class before. And it was just like, I was like, okay, I'm in for it. I'm already sweating. I'm still hot from the run. And then as we started to do the workout, my hands were like slipping all over my mat because I didn't know that I needed like a mat towel to go over my mat so I wouldn't slip. There's like stuff that you can use for hot yoga to make it a little more of a pleasant situation. But this was definitely a rude awakening, my first hot yoga practice. But it was also the very first time I had heard a teacher invite me into setting an intention. And I'll never forget how powerful and simple that was. It was just this very quick, simple moment at the top of our mats after like warming our spines up and coming to stand in mountain pose, which is just standing with your arms to your sides, tall and with our eyes shut down. And I'll always remember the instructor said, bring your hands together, and I invite you to set an intention for your practice. And I was like, oh, that's fresh. Like, I've never heard that before. And the first thing that came to my mind was, as cheesy as this sounds, I have my own personal stigma on it, but it bubbled up from like the corners of my subconscious mind, like brought it to the forefront of my mind, and it was simply love myself. I remember just getting through the practice, slipping all over my mat, sweating a ton, and then thinking about it for the next like month or two. Like, I need to get back into that studio. It stayed with me. The practice stayed with me. I started my yoga practice at the studio like toward the end of that summer. It was the same idea coming back to me again and again for intentions. It was probably my intention every time I came to the mat: love myself. 3 or 4 months. It was the end of that, through to the end of that year. I learned, became a really important and pivotal message and lesson for myself, because as I had previously mentioned, I had been taught to hate my flesh. I had been taught to hate and distrust my inner being and my inner heart. This is my personal experience with what I had absorbed and what I learned in my own spirituality and my own journey. So it's not okay to teach people to hate themselves or their bodies or their flesh or their hearts. I learned how much damage that did to me in terms of my own body. Like, I was disconnected from my body and my sensations, and feeling like it's okay to be in my body and it's okay to feel things, and especially this idea of accepting myself to the point of it being love. It made it difficult for me to accept love, like from any outside source, whether it was this idea of a deity or another person. It was tainted through this idea that I am at my core unlovable and unworthy. And I really believe that that is what Christianity taught me, that without this necessary covering of a God who is perfect, without this atonement, that I in and of myself am unworthy. But as I say that now, I kind of revisit the experience of living with this, like, almost this self-hate, this distrust. Like, I was taught that the heart above all things is deceitful. This was scripture, and I believed it. And now I realize what damage that did to me. And it affected my love life. It affected my personal life, my work life. Like, the way that I operated in this world, always like, I'm not beautiful, whole, good, compassionate enough, lovely enough, like skilled enough in and of myself. It was always like, oh, I can't do anything myself. Like, I always thought I needed something else to make me worthy, whole, and good. And that spirituality was dangerous. That did some damage to me psychologically, and being in unity with myself, because I had like lost this trust in my own body, in my own heart, in my own spirit, in my own gut. And I like don't wish that upon anybody. Now, as a yoga instructor, I can offer that safe space. I want to facilitate a place for people to be themselves, to hear their own inner voices, and to know how worthy and important doing that is. Like, you are worthy of that. You are worthy of sitting with yourself, and that being a lovely, loving, compassionate, positive experience, meeting with yourself, going deep inward to hear your own voice, your own spirit, your own inner wisdom. I believe it's in all of us. We all have an inner wisdom, an inner sanctity, like this higher self or a divinity within ourselves, the ability to unite and connect with who you believe to be your higher power, if you believe there is a higher power. So yeah, I through yoga and therapy and friends and journaling and like having the balance with family, even, yoga was one aspect that helped me to like find that inner alignment, and blossom as an adult. So what a beautiful experience that was, to have the time to reflect and do that. I then in 2018 went and did my 200-hour yoga training certification, and I did that with Yandara Yoga, which is one of the most beautiful schools that I know for yoga, that bust out some really heartfelt, heart-centered yoga teachers. But as of right now, I have my 200-hour registered yoga certification, and I also have my Reiki level 1 certification as a practitioner, and I'm working on my level 2. So that's energy healing through the hands, which has been really cool to learn about, and I can get into that another time. But in a nutshell, that's me. Again, I'm Stacy. I'm 34 years old. I've always been a mover. A heartbreak and really stressful work is what started to really root me into a yoga practice. Self-love, self-compassion, and healing that inner self-worth was a big part of my yoga journey and my healing journey. Yoga means unity. So it brought me into this unity with not only myself, but an even deeper connection to the divine that I had never experienced before. So my higher power has been a big part of my experience in my yoga practices. Just not that I really need to like, I don't know, like wave that around in any way. It's special. Um, yeah, I think that's it. I love cats. I have two. I have a Prancer and a Biscuit. And I love nature. I love to dance. I haven't had a haircut since February. I don't know what else to tell you. That's about it for now. I'm sure I'll think of more another time. But please join me on your yoga journey, even if it's not super emotional or spiritual. That's another big thing. It doesn't have to be. It is really whatever you want it to be as your practice. It can be solely for the athleticism and to just feel good in your body. And that's beautiful. That's going to offer you what you need and want. So I'm here for that. So again, I'm here to hold space for you. Prancer says hi. I hope you can see her. Hello. Is you going to say hello? She doesn't want me to pick her up. Oh, hello, Mama. Hello, this one's Prancer. Okay, we say goodbye. She's being shy. Bye.